If I were 20 years old again, and someone handed me $10,000, I would not buy stocks. I would not buy crypto. I would not chase the next AI company. In fact, I'd ignore almost everything the internet tells young people to do with money. Because this isn't really about investing $10,000. It's about avoiding the invisible system designed to make you waste your best decade. Everyone talks about how to grow money. Almost nobody talks about how money grows people. And that's the difference. A bad investment doesn't just cost you dollars. It costs you years. One wrong decision at 20 can quietly steal opportunities you'll never even know existed. One smart decision can echo for the next 40 years. Think about that. Two people start with the exact same $10,000. 10 years later, one has $1 million career, valuable skills, confidence, and financial freedom. The other has a few expensive gadgets, a closet full of things they barely use, and memories of chasing trends that disappeared. Same money, completely different future. Why? Because investing isn't a game of picking winners. It's a game of escaping traps. That's the framework for this video. Imagine your financial life as a giant maze. Most people think the goal is finding treasure. It's not. The goal is avoiding the traps that keep you running in circles. Today I'll show you the 4 biggest traps I'd escape if I could go back to being 20, and exactly how I'd invest every dollar of that $10,000 to build a life instead of just a portfolio. Because by the end of this video, you won't just see money differently. You'll see time differently. And that's where everything changes. The first trap is the skill trap, and this is where almost everyone makes their first mistake. They think investing starts in the stock market. It doesn't. It starts in your brain. Here's where it gets dangerous. At 20, your biggest asset isn't money. It's your earning potential. Imagine 2 trees. One already has fruit. The other is still growing. Which one should receive more water? The growing one. Your income works exactly the same way. Most people obsess over earning 8% in the market while completely ignoring the opportunity to double or triple their income. That's like searching the ground for coins while standing beside a gold mine. This is the part nobody tells you. The market rewards capital. Life rewards capability. A software engineer who increases their salary from $50,000 to $150,000 creates more wealth than years of average investing. A salesperson who learns persuasion can earn commissions forever. A business owner who masters marketing creates income that compounds every year. The skill becomes the asset. Think about someone like a world-class surgeon. Their greatest investment wasn't the stock market. It was becoming someone whose time became incredibly valuable. Psychologists call this self-efficacy, the belief that your actions create results. People with high self-efficacy consistently earn more because they believe they can solve harder problems, and companies pay for problem solvers. If I had $10,000 at 20, the first $4,000 wouldn't touch the market. I'd buy knowledge, courses, books, mentorship, networking events, communication training, sales, AI tools, writing, negotiation, public speaking, anything that permanently increases my value. Because stocks can crash. Skills rarely do. Every conversation, every interview, every opportunity, your skills keep paying. That's compound interest no chart can fully measure. Imagine learning a skill that increases your income by just $20,000 per year. Over the next 20 years, that's hundreds of thousands of dollars in additional earnings. And that's before you even invest a single extra dollar. No stock can consistently compete with that kind of return early in your life. The biggest mistake young people make is believing that investing money is more important than investing in themselves. But here's the truth. The person you become determines the amount of money you'll eventually control. The stronger your skills become, the larger your future investments become automatically. That's why I would treat my mind as my first investment account. Every book I read, every mentor I learned from, every conversation that improves my thinking becomes another deposit into an account that never crashes. And that's exactly why escaping the first trap changes everything. But here's the twist. Even people who successfully increase their income often end up broke anyway. Why? Because waiting around the next corner of the maze is an even more dangerous trap. Part 2 ***. The next trap is the lifestyle trap, and this is where the maze becomes much more dangerous because success itself starts working against you. You finally get a better job. Your income increases. Maybe you get your first promotion. Maybe your business starts making real money. You feel like you've earned the right to enjoy life, and there's nothing wrong with enjoying your success. The problem is that your lifestyle quietly grows even faster than your income. You move into a more expensive apartment. You finance a nicer car. You upgrade your phone every year. You buy designer clothes because everyone around you has them. You start spending money not because it improves your life, but because it improves your image. Before you even realize what's happening, every extra dollar you earn has already been promised to a bigger expense. It's like carrying a bucket filled with water while someone keeps making the hole at the bottom larger. No matter how much water you pour in, the bucket never stays full. That's exactly how lifestyle inflation works. It doesn't matter whether you earn $50,000 or $500,000 a year if your spending grows just as fast. You'll always feel like you're behind. You'll always tell yourself that next year's raise will finally make everything easier. But next year comes, your income increases, and somehow life still feels expensive. This is one of the biggest financial illusions in modern society. Rich isn't about how much money comes in. Rich is about how much freedom remains after everything goes out. Behavioral psychologists call this hedonic adaptation. Human beings quickly get used to better things. The excitement of a brand new car disappears within months. The luxury apartment eventually feels normal. The expensive watch stops making you feel successful. Then your brain starts chasing the next upgrade. It's an endless cycle that never actually satisfies you. Social media makes this even worse because every day you're comparing your life with someone else's highlight reel. You don't see their debt. You don't see their financial stress. You only see the vacation pictures, the luxury hotels, the fancy restaurants, and suddenly your perfectly good life starts feeling average. This is the trap. You're buying things you don't truly need to impress people who aren't even paying attention. If I were 20 again, I'd spend about $1,000 improving my productivity instead of my appearance. I'd buy a powerful laptop that allows me to work faster. I'd build a clean workspace that helps me focus. I'd invest in software, tools, books, and equipment that help me produce more value instead of simply looking more successful. Before buying anything, I'd ask myself one question. Will this purchase increase my future income or only increase today's dopamine? That one question alone could save hundreds of thousands of dollars over a lifetime. Every dollar saved early becomes another employee working for you through compound growth. Which brings us to the next trap, and this one is even more dangerous because it sounds completely reasonable. The third trap is the waiting trap. This is where millions of people lose decades without realizing it. They keep telling themselves they'll start investing once they make more money. They say they'll begin after their next promotion, after they finish paying off something, after life becomes less stressful. But life never becomes less busy. There is always another expense, another emergency, Another reason to wait. Waiting feels safe because it removes the pressure of making a decision today. But every year you delay investing is a year compound interest never gets back. Imagine standing beside a river waiting for the water to stop flowing before you cross. You'll still be standing there years later because rivers never stop flowing. Life works the same way. The perfect moment never arrives. Successful investors don't wait until everything is perfect. They start before they feel ready. That's the secret nobody talks about. Time matters more than timing. The earlier your money begins working, the harder it works. Compound interest is almost invisible at first. It feels slow. It feels disappointing. But that's because you're only looking at the surface. Think about planting an oak tree. During the first few years, it barely seems to grow. Most of its energy is being spent building roots underground where nobody can see them. Then one day it becomes massive, providing shade for generations. Investing works exactly the same way. The early years build invisible momentum. Then the growth begins accelerating faster than most people believe is possible. If I had $10,000 at age 20, I'd immediately invest around $4,000 into low-cost, diversified index funds. Not because they're exciting, but because boring often wins. The biggest mistake investors make is chasing excitement. They jump from crypto to meme stocks to hot trends because they confuse entertainment with investing. Real wealth is usually built through patience, not prediction. The market doesn't reward people who constantly guess correctly. It rewards people who consistently stay invested. Social media loves overnight success stories because they're entertaining. Nobody goes viral by saying they invested every month for 30 years. Yet that's exactly how countless millionaires quietly build wealth. The market is less about intelligence and far more about emotional control. If you can stay calm while everyone else is panicking, you've already developed one of the greatest financial advantages possible. The hardest part isn't choosing an investment. It's refusing to abandon it every time the headlines become scary. That's where patience becomes your greatest asset. But even patience isn't enough if you fall into the final trap, because this last trap doesn't attack your wallet. It attacks your identity. Part 3 ***. The final trap is the identity trap, and this is the trap that silently controls every financial decision you'll ever make. Most people believe money changes people, but here's the truth. Money reveals. People imagine pouring premium fuel into a broken engine. The fuel isn't the problem. The engine is. More money won't automatically make someone disciplined, patient, or wise. It simply gives them more opportunities to become exactly who they already are. If you're careless with $1,000, you'll probably be careless with $100,000. If you're impatient with small investments, you'll likely be impatient with large ones too. Wealth follows identity much more than identity follows wealth. That's why the most valuable investment isn't in your bank account. It's in your habits. Every successful person you admire has spent years becoming someone capable of handling success before success actually arrived. Think about elite athletes. They don't suddenly become champions on the day they win the trophy. They become champions through thousands of invisible mornings when they trained while nobody was watching. Financial success works exactly the same way. Nobody applauds when you skip an unnecessary purchase. Nobody celebrates when you invest instead of spending. Nobody notices when you spend another evening reading instead of scrolling social media. But those invisible decisions slowly build a completely different life. Neuroscience tells us that repeated behaviors strengthen neural pathways inside the brain. Every time you repeat a habit, that behavior becomes easier. Eventually, discipline stops feeling like discipline because it becomes part of who you are. You no longer save money because you're forcing yourself. You save because you're the kind of person who naturally thinks about the future. That's a completely different mindset. If I were 20 again, I'd protect my environment as carefully as I protect my investments. I'd spend more time around ambitious people, builders, creators, entrepreneurs, investors, people who constantly learn instead of constantly complain. Because your environment quietly shapes your standards. The conversations you hear every day become the thoughts you eventually think. If everyone around you believes becoming wealthy is impossible, you'll slowly begin believing it too. But if you're surrounded by people discussing ideas, businesses, opportunities, and long-term thinking, your brain starts searching for those opportunities automatically. Success begins feeling normal instead of impossible. That's why your greatest investment isn't finding better opportunities. It's becoming the kind of person who naturally recognizes them when they appear. Now let's put the entire strategy together. If someone handed me $10,000 at 20 years old, I'd invest roughly $4,000 into developing valuable skills that permanently increase my earning power. I'd spend another $1,000 buying tools that make me more productive instead of more impressive. I'd invest approximately $4,000 into diversified long-term index funds and productive assets that quietly grow while I continue improving myself. The remaining $1,000 would stay as an emergency fund because peace of mind is also an investment. Financial security prevents desperate decisions. It allows you to think clearly during difficult times. Notice something important. I'm not simply dividing money. I'm dividing the future. One part grows my abilities. One part grows my assets. One part protects my stability. Together, they create something far more valuable than wealth. They create freedom. Freedom to choose where you work. Freedom to walk away from toxic situations. Freedom to spend time with people you love. Freedom to build a life instead of constantly reacting to one. That's the kind of return no stock chart can fully measure. Everyone wants fast success. Almost nobody wants to build inevitable success. Yet inevitable success is exactly what happens when ordinary decisions are repeated consistently over many years. The maze we talked about at the beginning isn't impossible to escape. Most people simply spend their lives chasing shiny distractions instead of searching for the exit. They buy status before skills. They chase excitement before consistency. They focus on looking wealthy instead of becoming wealthy. Every decision either moves you deeper into the maze or one step closer to freedom. If I could speak to my 20-year-old self one final time, I wouldn't tell him to buy a magical stock or predict the next market crash. I wouldn't tell him to become obsessed with getting rich quickly. I'd tell him something much simpler. Become more valuable every single year. Protect your time more fiercely than your money. Build skills that nobody can take away. Own productive assets. Ignore the noise. Stay patient when everyone else becomes impatient. Because wealth isn't built through one brilliant decision. It's built through thousands of ordinary decisions that most people are too distracted to make. One book, one skill, one investment, one habit, one conversation, 1 month, 1 year. Again and again until the results become impossible to ignore. That's how ordinary people quietly become extraordinary. Remember, the goal was never to find treasure inside the maze. The goal was to stop getting trapped. Once you escape the traps, every step finally begins moving you forward. And one day you'll look back, not amazed by how much money you made, but by how completely you transformed the person who was capable of making it. That's the investment that never crashes. That's the return no recession can erase. And that's how $10,000 becomes far more than money. It becomes the moment your entire future changes.